Hey guys, MOST Anticipated here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so for today's video, we are going to talk about an interesting topic. Shout out to Drace and a couple of people that were chatting with me in the stream over the World Tournament weekend and came up with this idea. We mentioned a few examples, and then I made a post on Twitter earlier this morning just asking you guys for some ideas of your own as well. This isn't going to be one of the videos where I just like read through the comments. I just wanted to get some other examples, maybe some ones that I hadn't thought of, to show in the video here. And we're going to go through 8 units. If there's any more that you guys want to mention in the comments, maybe I'll do a follow-up video. But as you can see from the title, the discussion today is units that were most wanted or hyped that were then disappointing when they released. So sounds fairly straightforward. Obviously it's essentially just a case of a character or a form or something like that that was very much anticipated, very wanted by a lot of people, hype when we found out it was going to come to the game. And then when it came to the game, the unit was a massive disappointment. So there are, some different things in the comments of that original tweet thread. People mentioning like easy A's and stuff like that, like AGL Bardock. I can agree. I was one of those people that was looking forward to his easy A being good. And then obviously it wasn't. But this isn't quite the kind of thing that I mean. Maybe we could do that as a separate one for disappointing easy A's, perhaps. Maybe I'll make a thread about that for another one of the days this week, as we know that we're basically not getting any content until like Thursday. But yeah, this is more for characters or forms that were anticipated to release and then were disappointing. So like I said, I'll go through a couple in this video. If there's more that you guys want to mention down below in the comments, maybe I'll make a follow-up video as well. But we're going to jump straight in with the ROF Blues. So I've mentioned this many times in the past. If you guys have been around the channel for a while, you've probably heard me say it at some point. I was really looking forward to this unit existing, even before they were previewed or anything. Just the idea of a Resurrection of F Blue Goku that exchanges into the Blue Vegeta. I know Resurrection F isn't hugely popular in the franchise. Some people like it, some people don't. It's generally considered to be not that great from what I hear from most people's feedback and stuff. I really enjoyed it. Maybe because, obviously I've gotten to see Battle of Gods as well, but very rare that I got to see like Dragon Ball movies in the cinema, especially over here in the UK. So I very much enjoyed seeing it the first time. I thought the beginning was super cool and fun with like the Z fighters fighting all of the Frieza army. And I know there are the different criticisms, like with the whole thing with the laser beam and stuff like that, and of course Vegeta being robbed from the W, but overall I enjoyed it, and I was really looking forward to this unit existing in whatever way, shape or form. And then of course the exchange Dokkan Fest was announced, and then they came out and were just very, very disappointing. The Goku isn't really doing a huge amount to speak of. He builds up some stats with each attack performed, and he can get like 3 attacks in the turn if you get the hidden potential. But his super attack effect is only raising attack, which means he just aged very quickly, not having particularly good defense. And then when you exchanged into Vegeta, Vegeta kind of relies on rainbow orbs, but only creates rainbow orbs for 3 turns. So just overall, this unit could have been so much better. For a unit that a lot of people were excited to get into the game, just very, very disappointing. So these guys start us off here and give you the gist of what we are talking about, right? So the next one on the list, these guys aren't in any like order, like release order, or the ones that are the most disappointing or anything like that. They're literally just as I was pulling up the pages, right? So in Goku Black, the transforming Goku Black specifically, right? We'd already gotten a physical Goku Black. We already had the AGL Rosé. People really wanted a transforming Goku Black. But yeah, this guy on release was not really particularly great. Also, his Easy A was very disappointing. But as we said, that's not really something we're hugely focusing on here. He stacked defense. It was a greatly stacking defense, but his attack wasn't really anything particularly great. I mean, he honestly wasn't terrible on release, but just overall very disappointing, especially back then in that meta. Damage was kind of the thing that people were impressed by a bit more. Events weren't necessarily crazy difficult enough that, units had to prioritize defense. And then, of course, once he transformed into Rosé, again, like, not a crazy amount of defense, just has the stacking, chance to crit, gave extreme allies some key. Honestly, not the worst, but yeah, just overall for the first Rosé transformation, very disappointing. Rosé Goku Black is a very, very popular character, which is Goku Black in general. Very popular character. People were really excited to actually have a transforming one in the game, because the AGL one, of course, was super, super popular when he and the physical Vegito Blue released as the first like super and extreme class leaders. So people were really looking forward to this guy's release, and like Time Travelers at the time was just not really a great team either. So this guy, unfortunately, just disappointing. And we've not really gotten another premium like base Goku Black. I could see us getting another one that either transforms or just stays as base, but yeah, another premium base Goku Black could be interesting. The physical Rosé is one people mentioned in the tweet thread as being disappointing because they wanted a new standalone Rosé, but obviously, you know, by the time the physical one came out, we already had 3 other standalone Rosés in the game, so it doesn't quite fit the thing that we're going for here. There is a unit that I mentioned in this list that does have one other unit already in the game, but it's a little bit of a different situation because there's quite a few Goku Blacks. The next one we have, one of the examples I gave in the tweet that I made, is the TEQ Kaioken Goku. So this guy, like, you know, if you've been around the community for a while, one of the almost most recommended or most suggested whenever we would talk about like New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest or Golden Week or just anything that was going to be like a dual Dokkan Fest, and we'd ask people like, you know, what do you guys want to see? What do you think the dual Dokkan Fest could potentially be? Every single time, right, the number of people that would say Hit versus Kaioken Goku, right? So Golden Week for this year finally rolled around. Now again, we don't, you know, not have a Kaioken Goku, but the only one that technically is like the Kaioken Goku from the Hit fight is the AGL one from the old 100% lead meta, but the card doesn't even have Kaioken in the name. And obviously it's a very, very old unit. People were very much looking forward to a proper version of the Hit versus Goku, like Kaioken Goku coming out. And so, yeah, we finally got it released for Golden Week. And, yeah, this guy just very, very disappointing. Weird restriction, like basically we never want a Goku, or well, especially a Goku, thinking about the number of categories that he's on, but one of these really cool Saiyan characters on all these teams like Power Beyond Super Saiyan and Realm of Gods and all that kind of stuff, but then he wants to be run with representatives of Universe 7 allies in order to get his full passive active. Very, very disappointing. And then of course he has an interesting sort of mechanic where he has the transformation into the Kaioken, where he essentially is just there to kind of do a big attack in slot 1 and then die, which is kind of like an interesting design. I don't hate it, but just overall the card itself, like not that one aspect of the design makes him bad or anything, but just overall the design for this unit definitely very, very disappointing considering how long people had waited. And I didn't include Hit because Hit was very decent. Like at the time of release, a lot of people were saying, you know, like this guy, like Hit was potentially the best TUR, especially for longer content. But obviously Goku was just such a massive disappointment in comparison. I think it's generally considered, I think for most people, let me know what you think, but like, I feel like for most people, the Golden Week for this year is probably considered the worst Golden Week for quite some time. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what you guys think, let me know, but you know, Golden Weeks have been fairly successful for the last few years in a row until this one for 2025 certainly was disappointing overall. I think with the banner units not being very good, it's pretty much like Hit and then the Carnival, LRKL and Caulifla were like the highlights of Golden Week, but overall not particularly great. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think down below of the inclusion of this guy. I feel like most people would agree with his inclusion in this kind of discussion, but let me know what you guys think. So next up we have Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Now this one got mentioned by a lot of people, so I thought I would include it. Again, we do have Super Saiyan 2 Gohans in the game already. Like the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan was the very first like summonable LR if you're on JP. And obviously, you know, from being an early on unit, fairly basic kit for the time, very basic animations. Obviously, his 18 key super eventually ended up getting revamped because it was so very basic. But yeah, we do have other Super Saiyan 2 Gohans in the game, but I think this one, especially when we found out that one of the anniversary units was going to be a new standalone Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, I think a lot of people were very excited, and like his animations are really good. He just overall is disappointing. Like I spoke about, you guys know if you've been around the channel, from the anniversary, I thought he was kind of overhated. I used him in a lot of the content at the time when he came out, and I always thought he was pretty decent, but he certainly was not as good as he could have been. A lot of people, you know, when you go through talking about like Z and the different arcs and stuff, there's a lot of people who like Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 and like versus Cell is like their favorite part of Dragon Ball Z. Like a lot of people have Gohan as their favorite character, and the Super Saiyan 2 transformation and battle against Cell and the Father-Son Kamehameha is like one of their most peak like Dragon Ball moments. So obviously this guy getting a new standalone character for the 10th anniversary, which, you know, we were constantly told how special of a celebration that was and everything, all the big budget that went into some of the other units and everything, and then yeah, for this guy to be what he was on release, yeah, people in general I think were quite disappointed. But let me know what you guys think. Like I say, I feel like he was maybe a little bit overhated on release, but he certainly wasn't as good as he could have been, right? Then next up we have Physical Raditz. Now it's funny, people mentioned this guy. He had a tech random unfeatured unit. He was like the banner unit for AGL Bardock, right? And then there's like a free-to-play one. But for a lot of people, I think Proton made a post about it. Like a lot of people like Raditz as, you know, the first villain of Z, the one that sort of, you know, introduced the whole Saiyans, and, you know, Goku's actually a Saiyan called Kakarot and all this kind of stuff. You know, at the time in the Dragon Ball universe, the two strongest people on the earth, Goku and Piccolo, and then Raditz shows up and just absolutely like destroys them both at the same time. Like, and so whilst he obviously becomes a meme and like becomes a bit of a joke, and I mean like even Vegeta and Nappa joke about how weak he is compared to them, like he was a big deal in that very beginning of Z, which is what a lot of us grew up with. So the idea of a Dokkan Fest Raditz finally coming out, this is something that quite a lot of people, and myself included, were quite excited for this guy to actually be good. Like, I've always liked Raditz's design aesthetically. I mean, obviously I like Super Saiyan 3, I like big hair and everything, right? I used to play as Raditz, like when we played the very first like Budokai game, someone obviously would always pick Goku. I would just play as Raditz because I thought he looked cool. And, you know, characters in the early fighting games especially were always fairly balanced. So a Dokkan Fest Raditz could have been really good. And then, of course, you know, the reason why I feel like he's got to be included on the list is that not only was he not good on release, but oh boy, did he become the ultimate meme of like probably the worst on release Dokkan Fest. In terms of like the meta he released in and how good he was at the time of his release. Just, yeah, absolutely crazy how big of a meme this guy is. And I hope and pray, I've said to you guys many times before in other videos and streams when we've been chatting and stuff like that, I really hope that his EZA is good so that he can actually get some sort of redemption, because, man, super disappointing release. So now we have a more recent one, and this is the one I mentioned earlier, right? Wrathful Broly. Now, obviously, we had a Wrathful Broly in the game already, the AGL one, but he came out, EZA'd straight away. He was okay, and then obviously aged out, and because he already had an EZA, just had absolutely no chance of redemption whatsoever. And so now we have waited for another Wrathful Broly. It's something that I've suggested a whole bunch of times for things like Dual Dokkan Fest, something like a Wrathful Broly and a God Vegeta or something like that. A new Wrathful Broly is something that I think people have waited a very long time for. And then, unfortunately, we get a new Wrathful Broly. He's a Carnival LR, so, you know, like big hype. And then he's a unit that is basically only good in Festival of Battles, which is a mode that a lot of people, myself included, don't even like and like don't want to play again, or, you know, more often than not, right? So him only being good in an event that, you know, you've already beaten and don't particularly like isn't really great for a character that you have been excited for, you know, the release for quite some time. And I guess it's one of those things we talked about on his release and everything. Like, if the next meta that we move into, which I guess will probably not be till the anniversary content, if the next meta that we move into is long events again, then obviously this guy could see a bit of a comeback. As long as it's the longer form events where the beginning isn't super, super difficult, so that he can tank those hits early on and build up and then have all the additionals and everything. He has the potential, but I think when it comes to the discussion point of this video, a character that people waited so long for, which was another Wrathful Broly to finally be in the game. And then when we finally got him, just, yeah, very, very disappointing. Only good in like one particular mode that a lot of people don't even like. So yeah, if you're a Wrathful Broly fan, especially if you're like a Wrathful Broly fan and you don't like Festival, very, very disappointing release, right? So let me know what you guys think. And the next one is another Broly. I wanted to get a Heroes unit in here somewhere. Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Broly. So the original Super Saiyan 4 Broly, like, I think someone did mention him in the thread, but like on release, he wasn't completely terrible. Like, obviously making the full Super Saiyan 4 team has always been fun when there's been enough units to do so. But this guy, like, even though the Limit Breaker Goku and Vegeta weren't particularly great, like the year before, we had the Vegito, Limit Breaker Vegito release. We had obviously the Easy A for Super Saiyan 4, normal Vegito, physical one. The Super Saiyan 4 Heroes like setup for that year in particular, for 2023, was looking pretty good. And then when the other two units were announced, like the other two random banner units, as being the Blue Berserk controlled Vegeta and Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Broly, I think a lot of people were very excited for Limit Breaker Broly. And yeah, he was just mid. I think, like, out of all of the Heroes units that released that year, like, him or Vegeta were quite easily the worst ones, which is really disappointing. Lots of different theories behind why that ended up being the case. Obviously, with the original Heroes format, it was the case that 2 units on the banner wouldn't awaken until the next year. And then this year, when these units came out, they all awakened. And I almost feel like maybe it was like the Vegeta and the Broly were supposed to have awakened like a year later and potentially have then been a lot better. But then they just awakened them straight away instead, and unfortunately they were both pretty mid, because Super Saiyan 4, like, I say everyone, but most people like Super Saiyan 4, at least as a design or a concept, even if you don't like GT, like me, not the hugest GT fan, but love Super Saiyan 4. Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 is very cool, and yeah, so a Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Broly would have been so good. For him to be an actual really strong, dominant unit would have been fantastic. Obviously, Heroes were never quite that crazy for the most part, but then this guy released the same year as Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, who was the best TUR in the game on release, according to me, and other people as well, but I still maintain that he was the best TUR in the game on release. No one was doing what he was doing on turn 1, like on his team. It was crazy. And then, yeah, we had this guy on the same banner. Just overall, very, very disappointing. And then lastly, I had to get this one in here because a couple of people mentioned it in the thread. Because technically, obviously, is not Beast Gohan, which kind of is the issue, I guess, right? Because at the time when they showed off like the teaser and everything, and they showed the card art for this guy, and then obviously they showed the big thing that said like coming soon or to be until whatever it was, I can't remember what it said specifically, but it showed the giant like beast face like that's coming up here now, right? That's about to become like the full screen. They showed this art and they showed the Orange Piccolo arts in that live stream like teaser, and so this guy just became such a hugely anticipated release. Like, Dokkan's getting Beast Gohan, everyone was super excited. Beast Gohan coming to Dokkan, massive hype, only for the unit to release and of course go down in history as the Beastless Gohan, the physical ultimate Gohan that literally just has the beast transformation and special beam cannon as an active skill. And the thing is, like, I know there was huge arguments about this guy on release. Twitter became an absolute hellhole of people overpraising him or over-hating him, and the discussion never being anywhere really in the middle. He was either the best unit ever and everybody else who didn't think so was stupid and didn't know how to play the game, or he was completely terrible and the only people saying he was good were just like Gohan agenda or hybrids agenda. It was a bad time in the community, and this guy was just hugely anticipated as the release of a Beast Gohan in Dokkan, and then of course was not Beast Gohan. And that's majorly where the disappointment came from. I think he was probably a bit overhated on release. However, I used him plenty in the content that he released in. He did have key issues. He would constantly get additional normals instead of additional supers. He could be very annoying to use, but in the runs where he did look good, he could look really, really good. So he wasn't a completely terrible unit by any means, but the disappointment largely comes from him not being Beast Gohan. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section of the 8 units that we've talked about in this video today. If there's more that you think I should talk about and do a follow-up video for other units that were heavily anticipated and then turned out to be disappointing, do let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, maybe we'll do the disappointing Easy A's one as well. Keep an eye out for any tweets. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord as well. I'll post in there for those of you who don't use Twitter, so you can give me some feedback there as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think on this one down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.